The little girl was barely tall enough to see through the kennel gates. She stood on the tips of her shoes, her small fingers curling around the metal bars, peering inside with the kind of stillness that didn't belong to a child her age. She was 3 years old, maybe 4. The kind of age where most children grab at everything, shout at everything, run toward anything that moves. But this girl didn't do any of that. She just stood there, looking at the dog lying in the far corner of the last kennel, the one no one else had stopped at for more than a second. And what she did next made a shelter volunteer drop her clipboard and reach for her phone. Because in all her years working with animals, she'd never seen anything like it. But before I tell you what happened in that kennel, you need to understand something about the dog lying inside it, because his story didn't begin at this shelter. It began somewhere much darker. His name, they would later learn, was Bo. He'd been found 6 days earlier underneath an overpass on Route 14, curled against a concrete barrier in the rain. A truck driver spotted him while pulling over to check a tire. At first, he thought it was a pile of rags. Then the pile moved, just barely. When animal control arrived, they had to carry Bo to the vehicle because he couldn't stand on his own. His legs folded beneath him every time he tried. His ribs didn't just show through his coat. They cast shadows. His fur was matted, damp, and missing in patches along his back and hind legs. His eyes were open, but there was nothing behind them. No fear, no hope. Just a kind of deep, heavy quiet that made the officers go silent on the drive back. At Greenfield Animal Shelter, the intake worker weighed him at 31 pounds. A dog his size should have been closer to 60. They gave him food that first night. He didn't touch it. They warmed it. They changed it. They placed it closer. They placed it farther. They tried soft food, dry food, broth, hand feeding. Nothing. Bo pressed himself against the back wall of the kennel and didn't move. The veterinarian examined him the following morning. She checked for infection, for injury, for parasites, for internal blockages, anything that could explain why he wouldn't eat. The results came back mostly clear. His body could recover. But something else was wrong, something no blood test could measure. "This dog has given up," the vet told the staff quietly. "He's not sick. He's grieving." They didn't know his full history then. That would come later. But what they could see with their own eyes was enough. Bo wasn't waiting for food. He wasn't waiting for attention. He wasn't waiting for anything at all. He had simply stopped. Day after day, visitors walked through the shelter. Families, couples, teenagers volunteering for school credit. They moved down the row of kennels the way people always do. Drawn first to the puppies, the ones jumping against the gates, barking, wagging, pressing their noses through the bars. Those dogs had energy. They had charm. They made people laugh and kneel down and take pictures. Bo had none of that. He lay against the wall like he was trying to disappear into it. His head rested flat on the concrete floor. His bowl sat untouched beside him like a small, useless offering. People glanced in as they passed. Some whispered to each other. A few shook their heads. One woman covered her mouth with her hand and walked faster. No one opened his gate. No one stepped inside. By the 5th day, the staff began having quiet conversations in the break room. Conversations no one wanted to have. Because a dog that won't eat is a dog that's running out of time. And the shelter, with all its good intentions, couldn't force him to want to live. Then came the morning of the school visit. A small group from a nearby preschool arrived just after 10 o'clock. 8 or 9 children, led by 2 teachers and a handful of parents. The shelter organized visits like this a few times a year. A chance for young children to see the animals. Maybe bring donated blankets or toys. And learn a little bit about kindness toward creatures that needed it most. The children moved through the building in a cheerful, noisy cluster. They squealed at the kittens. They waved at the rabbits. They pressed their faces against every kennel gate and shouted the names they invented on the spot. That one's Spotty. That one's Princess. But one child didn't follow the group. Her name was Lily. She was small, even for her age. Blonde hair pulled loosely to one side, denim overalls over a yellow shirt, little white shoes that barely made a sound on the concrete floor. She walked slowly, a few steps behind the others, not because she was lost, but because she was looking at things differently. While the other children pointed at the loudest dogs, Lily's eyes moved past them. She noticed the quiet ones, the ones sitting in the back of their kennels, the ones not barking. Her mother walked beside her, watching with the kind of gentle patience that suggested she understood something about her daughter that others sometimes missed. Lily had always been this way. She didn't rush. She didn't shout. She noticed things that most people, even most adults, walked right past without seeing. At home, she was the child who sat beside her grandmother's old cat for hours without making a sound. She was the one who once found a moth resting on the windowsill and spent 10 full minutes watching its wings open and close before whispering, "It's breathing." She saw the world slowly, and because of that, she saw more of it. When the group reached the far end of the hallway, most of the children had already turned back toward the kitten room. But Lily kept walking. Her mother followed a few steps behind, and then Lily stopped. She was standing in front of the last kennel, the one with the thin dog lying against the wall, the one with the full bowl of food, the one that every other visitor had passed without a second thought. Lily didn't say anything. She just looked. Her fingers curled around the bars of the gate. She tilted her head slightly to one side, the way children do when they're trying to understand something they've never seen before. Then she turned to her mother and said very quietly, "Mama, he's sad." Her mother crouched beside her and looked through the gate. She saw the ribs. She saw the stillness. She saw the bowl. She placed a hand on Lily's shoulder and said gently, "He might not want visitors right now, sweetheart." But Lily didn't move. A volunteer named Carla had been watching from the far end of the hallway. She walked over slowly, expecting to explain to the mother that the dog was in a fragile state and that it might be best to move on. But before she could speak, Lily looked up at her and asked, "Can I sit with him?" Carla hesitated. She looked at the mother. The mother looked at Lily. There was something in the child's expression. Not excitement, not curiosity, but something closer to recognition. As if Lily had seen something in that dog that reminded her of something she already understood. Carla opened the gate. Lily stepped inside the kennel slowly, carefully, the way you might enter a room where someone is sleeping. She didn't reach for the dog. She didn't call to him. She sat down on the floor about 2 feet away from him, cross-legged, her small hands resting in her lap, and she waited. The shelter's ceiling camera recorded the next 4 minutes in full. For the first minute, nothing happened. Bo didn't move. He didn't lift his head. He didn't look at her. His breathing was shallow, his eyes half closed. Lily sat perfectly still. In the second minute, she reached slowly toward the bowl beside him. She picked up a single piece of dry food between her thumb and finger. She didn't extend it toward him. She simply held it in her open palm and rested her hand on the floor between them. In the third minute, Bo's ear moved, just slightly, a small twitch, as if he had heard something very far away and was trying to decide whether it was real. Then, near the end of the fourth minute, Bo lifted his head. He looked at her, not past her, not through her, at her. It was the first time in 6 days that Bo had looked directly at a human being. Carla, watching from outside the gate, pressed her hand over her mouth. She didn't move. She barely breathed. Bo leaned forward, slowly, unsteadily, and stretched his neck toward Lily's open hand. He sniffed once, then again. And then, gently, carefully, he took the piece of food from her palm. Lily didn't smile. She didn't cheer. She just picked up another piece and held it the same way. Bo ate that one too. By the time the rest of the group had gathered back near the entrance, ready to leave, Lily had fed Bo 7 small pieces from her hand, more than he had eaten in nearly a week. The staff replayed the security footage that evening, then again the next morning, then again when the shelter director arrived. None of them could explain it. Well, they had tried everything. Different foods, different people, different approaches. And a 3-year-old girl in overalls had done what none of them could, simply by sitting still. What they didn't know yet was that this was only the beginning. Lily's mother drove her back to the shelter the next afternoon, and the afternoon after that, and every afternoon that followed. Each visit was the same. Lily sat beside Bo. She held small pieces of food in her hand. She spoke to him quietly, sometimes in full sentences, sometimes in soft little sounds that didn't form words at all. She never pushed him. She never grabbed at him. She never once raised her voice. And each day, Bo ate a little more. By the end of the first week, he was finishing half the bowl. By the second week, he was standing when he heard the front door of the shelter open. By the third week, he walked to the gate when Lily appeared at the end of the hallway. His tail, which hadn't moved since the day he was found, began to sway, just slightly, just barely, like a clock that had stopped and was learning to tick again. During those weeks, the shelter also pieced together Bo's past. He had belonged to a man named Walter Prewitt, a 74-year-old retired carpenter who lived alone on a small piece of land outside the city. Walter had found Bo as a stray years earlier, skinny, scared, hiding under a woodpile behind a gas station. He brought him home, fed him, gave him a bed near the fireplace, and from that day on, the two were never apart. Walter's neighbors said the same thing. You never saw one without the other. Walter sitting on the porch, Bo at his feet. Walter walking to the mailbox, while Bo 3 steps behind. Walter in his workshop, Bo lying under the table, the sound of the saw above him like a lullaby. Then, 4 months before the shelter visit, Walter suffered a stroke. He was taken to the hospital and never came home. A cousin tried to take Bo in, but the dog wouldn't settle. He paced the unfamiliar house. He wouldn't eat. He stood at the front door and scratched at it until the wood splintered. After 2 weeks, he broke through a screen door and disappeared. He was found 19 days later under that overpass on Route 14, barely alive. He had been looking for Walter. When Lily's mother heard the story from one of the volunteers, she sat in the parking lot for a long time before starting the car. That evening, she told her husband the whole thing. He listened without saying much. He had always been cautious about pets, the cost, the commitment, the responsibility. But that night, after putting Lily to bed, he sat at the kitchen table and said quietly, "She's not going to stop going back there." His wife nodded. "I know. And that dog isn't going to get better without her." She nodded again. He leaned back in his chair and looked toward the hallway where Lily's room was. Then he said, "Let's bring him home." The adoption paperwork was completed the following Saturday. When Carla opened the kennel gate for the last time and clipped a new leash to Bo's collar, the dog walked out slowly, his legs still unsteady, his frame still too thin. But his eyes were open, his head was up, and his tail moved in a steady, gentle rhythm as Lily reached up and placed her small hand on the side of his neck. He leaned into her touch the way you lean into something you've been waiting for without knowing it. The first month at home was quiet and careful. Lily's parents kept a bed for Bo near the living room window. They followed the veterinarian's instructions closely. Small meals, regular checkups, no roughhousing. Lily seemed to understand all of it without being told. She sat beside him on the floor while he ate. She covered him with a blanket when he slept. She checked on him before bed every single night, pressing her ear to his side the way a child listens to the ocean in a seashell. "He's still breathing," she'd whisper to her mother. And her mother would nod and say, "Yes, sweetheart, he is." By the second month, Bo was a different dog. His coat had thickened. His ribs were no longer visible. He moved through the house with a steadiness that hadn't been there before. He ate on his own now, full meals twice a day, though he still sometimes waited for Lily to sit beside him before he started. And then came the morning that changed everything again. It was early, just after sunrise. Lily's father was making coffee in the kitchen when he heard a sound from the backyard. He looked through the window and saw Bo running. Not walking, not limping, running. Full speed across the yard, ears back, legs stretching, his body low and fast and free. And behind him, laughing so hard she could barely keep up, was Lily, her bare feet slapping the wet grass, her arms swinging wide, chasing him in circles while the morning light caught them both. Her father stood at the window and didn't move for a long time, because he was watching a dog who had been ready to die learn how to live again. And he was watching his daughter, the quiet one, the careful one, the one who sometimes struggled to find her place in a world full of noise, run through the yard like she had finally found exactly where she belonged. Bo became her shadow after that. He walked beside her to the mailbox. He sat beside her on the porch while she drew with her crayons. He slept beside her bed every night, his chin resting on the edge of the mattress, one ear always turned toward her, even in sleep. And Lily became something too. She became braver. She spoke more clearly. She laughed more easily. She started showing other children pictures of Bo, telling them his story in her small, steady voice. And they listened. They actually listened. One afternoon, a few months after the adoption, Lily's preschool teacher called her parents for a meeting. They arrived nervous, expecting a concern. Instead, the teacher smiled and said, "I just wanted you to know, Lily told the whole class a story today about a dog named Bo. She stood up in front of everyone and spoke clearly, start to finish. The other children were completely quiet. One of them cried." The teacher paused. "I've been teaching for 22 years. I've never seen a 3-year-old hold a room like that." At home that evening, Lily sat on the floor beside Bo, her arm draped gently over his back. She was tired from the long day. Her eyes were heavy. But before she let her mother carry her to bed, she leaned close to Bo's ear and whispered something. Her mother couldn't hear the words. But Bo's tail moved slowly across the floor, back and forth, like a quiet answer to a question only the two of them understood. Months later, the shelter posted the security footage from that first visit. The clip showed a small girl sitting on the floor of a kennel beside a dog that had given up on everything. It showed her holding a single piece of food in her open hand. It showed the dog lifting his head. It showed him eating for the first time in days. The video was viewed over 2 million times. But the part that people kept replaying, the part that made strangers cry in their kitchens and living rooms and parked cars, wasn't the feeding. It was the moment just before it. The moment when Lily sat down on the cold floor and simply waited. No sound, no movement. Just a child who understood, without anyone teaching her, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can offer someone who has lost everything is not food, not words, not comfort, just presence. Just being there, quietly, patiently, and letting them know that they don't have to disappear. Today, Bo is healthy, strong, and never more than a few feet from the little girl who saved him. And Lily, the quiet child who always felt more comfortable around animals than people, walks through the world a little taller now because she knows something that most people spend a lifetime trying to learn. that you don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't have to be big to be brave. And sometimes, the ones the whole world walks past are the ones who need you most. And if you're patient enough, gentle enough, and willing to simply sit down on a cold floor and wait, love will find its way to you, even when it's forgotten how.